The marketplace of Zelthar Station burned with a hungry, chemical fury. Lisa pressed her, scaled back against the collapsing storefront. Her wings tucked tight against her body to avoid the flames. The Dravine were supposed to be fire-resistant. Her ancestors had evolved in volcanic regions, but modern poverty meant malnutrition, and malnutrition meant her scales were brittle, her natural defenses compromised. She had been searching through the wreckage for salvage, anything to sell for her next meal, when she heard it. A child's scream. Lisa's violet eyes swept across the inferno. There, beneath a fallen support beam in what used to be a human trading post, a small figure thrashed. A human child, no more than 7 or 8 cycles old, trapped and terrified. Every instinct told her to run. The station authorities would arrive soon, and a penniless Dravine caught near a fire would be blamed regardless of innocence. Her species had been refugees for 3 generations, scattered across the galaxy after their homeworld's economic collapse. No one would defend her. No one ever did. The child screamed again. Lisa cursed in her native tongue and dove into the flames. The heat seared through her weakened scales immediately. She bit back a roar of pain and grabbed the beam with both clawed hands, her muscles screaming as she lifted. The metal was hot enough to cook flesh, and she smelled her own scales burning. With a desperate heave, she threw the beam aside and reached for the boy. He stared up at her with wide, terrified brown eyes. Humans always looked at her species that way, like monsters from their ancient myths. "I won't hurt you," she rasped in broken standard. "Hold on." She wrapped her arms around the child and spread her wings despite the agony, using them as shields against the falling debris. The exit was barely visible through the smoke, a rectangle of gray light in a world of orange and black. Lisa ran. The explosion behind them threw her forward. She twisted midair, taking the impact on her back as they tumbled through the marketplace entrance. The boy, Jackson, she would later learn his name, clung to her neck, coughing but alive. Lisa's vision blurred. She tried to rise, but her legs wouldn't respond. Something was wrong with her spine. The world tilted sideways, and she saw boots approaching station security, finally arriving now that the danger had passed. "Please," she whispered, pushing Jackson toward them with one trembling claw. "Take him. Take the boy." The security officer's face twisted with disgust. "A dragon did this. Arrest her." "No." Jackson's voice was small but fierce. "She saved me. She saved me." But children's words carried no weight, especially against prejudice. Lisa felt the cold bite of restraints on her wrists as consciousness began to slip away. At least she had saved one life. In a galaxy that had given her nothing but suffering, perhaps that was enough. She closed her eyes. Jackson Reeves sat in the station commander's office, wrapped in a thermal blanket, and refused to stop talking. "She saved me," he repeated for the 15th time. "The dragon lady saved me. You have to let her go." Commander Vexris, a bureaucratic Thexian with too many eyes and too little patience, sighed. "Child, the Dravine are known scavengers. She was likely looting when she wasn't looting. She pulled me out. The beam was burning her, and she didn't even care," the commander's communicator chirped. He glanced at it, and all 4 of his eyes widened simultaneously. "Impossible. Impossible." "What?" Jackson demanded. There's a ship requesting permission to dock." "A human ship." Vexris's voice had gone very quiet. "A military ship. The ISS Retribution." Jackson's heart leaped. "That's my dad's ship. Your father is Commander Marcus Reeves?" The color drained from Vexris's face, or whatever passed for color in Thexian physiology. "The Marcus Reeves? The breaker of Krell Prime? The man who held the Xantha Pass against 10,000. The office wall exploded inward. It wasn't actually an explosion. It was simply that the door had opened with such force that it tore from its hinges and embedded itself in the opposite wall. The figure that strode through the smoke and dust was over 2 meters tall, clad in powered combat armor that still bore scorch marks from orbital re-entry. Marcus Reeves pulled off his helmet. and his eyes, the same brown as his son's, were colder than the void between stars. "Where," he said quietly, "is the person who saved my son?" Lisa woke in the medical bay, her spine reconstructed with nanosutures, her scales treated with regeneration gel she could never have afforded. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming. Then she saw him. The human was massive, even without the armor. And he sat beside her bed with the patience of a predator. When he spoke, his voice was surprisingly gentle. "My son tells me you pulled him from a fire." Lisa's translator implant struggled with her hoarse voice. Anyone would have. "No." Marcus shook his head slowly. "They wouldn't have. The security footage shows 7 people ran past while he screamed. You were the only one who went back." "I am sorry," Lisa whispered. She didn't know why she was apologizing, only that humans were powerful, and she was nothing, and apologies were all the powerless had. "Sorry?" For the first time, something like emotion crossed Marcus's face. "You saved my son's life at the cost of your own body. I owe you a debt that can never be repaid." I do not understand." Marcus stood, and Lisa saw that Jackson stood behind him, cleaned and bandaged. The boy's face split into a huge smile when their eyes met. "Humanity has a saying," Marcus continued, "a life for a life. You gave Jackson his future. I'm going to give you yours." He pulled out a data pad and pressed his thumb to it. "I've purchased your contract from every creditor on this station. Your debts are cleared. I've also arranged for a position on my ship. We need someone with your reflexes and courage in our rescue operations." Lisa's translator must have malfunctioned. And, Marcus added, his stern face finally cracking into a small smile, "My son insists you need to teach him Dravine fire dancing. Apparently, the way you moved through those flames was the coolest thing ever." Jackson nodded enthusiastically. "You were like a hero from the old stories. For the first time in 3 generations of poverty and exile, a Dravine allowed herself to hope." Lisa's eyes blurred with tears as she looked at the human father and son who had seen her not as a monster, but as exactly what she was. Someone who had chosen courage over safety, compassion over survival. "I would be honored," she whispered. And somewhere in the cold mathematics of the galaxy, the equation shifted. One act of kindness had been answered with another. And the universe was reminded of a truth it often forgot: that humanity's greatest weapon was not their ships or their soldiers, but their unshakable belief that every life had value, even the life of a penniless dragon lady with nothing left to lose.